Hello and welcome back to Well Played, presented by theSkimm, the only podcast dedicated to treating the sports world like the bingeable TV it actually is. I'm Amanda Duberin, and today my co-host Blake Lou Merwin is on vacation, so I am thrilled to be joined by a special guest host for the day. She's a parenting and health writer here at theSkimm, and luckily for us, a huge sports fan. Please welcome my co-host today, Claudia Rupcich. Thank you so much, Claudia, for joining us. How you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so pumped to be here.
So I kind of want our listeners to kind of get to know you real quick. Before we get into all the sports coverage today, tell us what have you been up to lately? Life's been very quiet and chill for you lately, I
So
assume,
chill.
right? Yeah.
I actually just got back to theSkimm after having my second baby. And yes, now I'm writing for the parenting and wellness newsletters here. Parenting goes out once a month on Thursday, and wellness goes out every week on Wednesday. So like and subscribe. But seriously, do subscribe. Just check out theskimm.com and you can find both our newsletters. It's great content, very different, but very well done. So it's been really fun to be part of those products.
Have your very small sons already? Are they being indoctrinated into any particular fandoms?
Okay, whoa. So we're huge. So I'm a Tar Heel. And
Cool.
one of the first things he learned how to say was "Go Heels,"
Yeah.
which I'm very proud of. And then Grandpa is a Yankees. I mean, he's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So he has his teams, but he is mostly obsessed with golf right now, and he
No
loves
way.
Rory McIlroy.
That's so cute.
Anytime he sees him play, he's like, "That's Rory McIlroy," and he just turned 3. And the kid, I think he's going to be an athlete. So we'll see.
Very discerning. Wow. I love how he's familiar with a range of sports and he already has a favorite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. As always, we will begin today's episode of Well Played with our segment, Playing the Field. This is a roundup of our favorite stories, the ones dominating our feeds this week. So let's step into the headlines like the Ravens stepping into the end zone for a game-sealing touchdown. Hopefully, we can keep both feet in today, Claudia.
Too soon.
It's time for Playing the Field. So we are beginning this week's Playing the Field the same way we started last week, with a conversation about a man that, based on his performance of the weekend, some would say it's just better seen, not heard. We will get into it. We are talking once again about Tom Brady. So this past Sunday, Tom made his very much anticipated debut as color commentator for the NFL on Fox. And let's just say reviews, I think they were mixed. The context here is that this man's being paid like $375 million to do this. What did viewers kind of pick up on over the weekend?
I mean, we got some hate. So right from the start, some viewers noticed how awkward, even nervous Brady sounded. One of the exchanges with his broadcasting partner, Kevin Burkhardt, he said, quote, "I do what they tell me. Understand that. I'm still a rookie in here." And then there was another widely shared moment. So awkward. He failed to land a fist bump with another broadcaster in the booth. Take a listen to that one.
Look, it's Mike Pereira. Hi, Mike. It's good to have you back.
Oh, don't leave me hanging.
So good to be back with you guys. It's just great to be here in Cleveland.
We love you, Mike.
So definitely some mixed reviews. People were pretty hard on him, and honestly, I kind of was, I don't want to say delighted, but I think something I think a lot about are sort of mixed expectations for men and women when they enter something new. And you know what? He got a pretty fair, I tend to think people would never say this about a woman if he was doing amazing, but he didn't do great. People were pretty hard on him, but a lot of people were saying, this is his first time doing this. Color commentating, it's a pretty tough skill. I mean, we're hosting a podcast. I've hosted podcasts for a long time. You have to kind of learn over time that you just have to get comfortable filling the space, even if you're not saying the most, the smartest, most brilliant things at all times. The point is that you're kind of always talking. And that seemed to be what he struggled with. He was just a little bit awkward. Claudia, I'm curious about, what did you think about his performance and the reactions to it?
I think is exactly what I expected. I do think people are being a little too harsh. So maybe I just feel for him. Before I came to theSkimm, I was a news reporter on air for more than a decade. So I know what it's like. It's like, I feel for him. Now, this is completely different, standards and all of that. But I think that, so I watched a lot of the pre-game and even building up interviews and then post-game interviews where he wasn't in the booth. It was more they were going back and forth. And honestly, in those, he did so much better. He looked confident and calm and collected, and he had good insight, kind of what you hope and expect from him. But then it was something about what you said, being during the game, the pauses, awkward, oh, you could have said more there. But I think everything else, it's going to take practice. And he has a bomb team around him, helping him, looking back at every single hit he took and being like, you did this, you did that, you did not do this. You can't let this happen. And I have no doubt in a few games, I think he'll be so much better.
Totally. And if he's still doing this in a couple years, nobody's going to be talking about that kind of rough first game. And like you said, like sometimes I think it takes a while to learn that if your job is to fill the space, it can feel really cringy at first just to sort of be talking, especially if you have a high standard for the things that you say. But it is less awkward to just be talking and saying somewhat kind of meaningless drivel than it is to just be quiet. And I think once he learns that, he'll be fine.
Yeah, but that's kind of counterintuitive. Like I would be
Yeah,
afraid to say something wrong or
totally.
stupid.
That's
You'd be like,
true.
I'm just gonna just nod. But it like you said, it's a skill that he's got to learn. Also, there's a ton of pressure on this guy. I know he's used to the pressure, and it's kind of like it's fair that he has pressure and he's getting paid enough money that like
Exactly.
I'm not gonna feel bad for him. But so the original duo there with Burkhardt and Greg Olson was like the dream team, and they
Mm,
were people loved them together. So when Brady replaced them, I think there was like this added pressure to perform and like have that chemistry, which they're not going to have off the bat.
yeah.
So there's all kinds of pressures on him. Well deserved, but I do think that we need to give him a shot at least.
And it seems like they didn't even really let him dip his toe in. Like, let's do like a short segment to start, see how that goes. Like, they really threw him into the deep end.
Yeah, I'm sure that he had practice. Like I said, he
Yeah,
probably has a voice coach and all kinds of coaches. And he had some live hits the day before. He was talking about all that stuff. So he was on camera, but I
totally.
agree. I think being in the booth during the game, color commentary, like
Yeah.
commentating, which he did not really add, um, is going to be practice. And hopefully, this is just number one out of so many games he's going to do, and it's gonna get better. So I'm not worried.
I mean, the question that I will always ask myself when I see men worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars is why? Just stay on vacation, dude.
Oh,
Could
I
never
don't
be
think
me.
this guy is
Could
gonna
never
just
be
stay on
me.
vacation.
No, I know.
So next up on Playing the Field, we have a story of love and basketball. And I'm not sure too many of us had hard launching a relationship via C-SPAN on our 2024 bingo card. So here's what happened. The Miami-Dade County Mayor, Daniela Levine Cava, was presenting Miami Heat and Team USA star Bam Adebayo and other local Olympians with the key to the city. And so while the mayor had the mic and she was on stage, she seemed to sort of let slip out this not-so-secret relationship between Adebayo and WNBA superstar Asia Wilson. Here's how it sounded live.
Yeah, Asia Wilson. And she won gold in women's basketball. I guess that has something to do with Bam and the Heat, huh? Being here today. Well, we are super proud. We're going to be presenting the keys in a moment.
Oh, I love this so much. This is my kind of sports story. People that pay close attention to this element of professional basketball had an idea that they were dating. They've been seen together in group settings. He was at her games at the Olympics with a couple other athletes. There was a funny moment when he was on the sidelines with a couple other of the men's basketball team members, and she like went up and hugged all of them and then gave him a handshake. And it was a little like, you're
Like,
doing too much,
obviously
like
not.
doing too little by doing too much. I mean, yeah, imagine just like never had a hard launching by the Miami mayor. And Asia seemed to have like a funny response. She responded on X with a clip of a real girlfriend or internet girlfriend meme. So I'm glad they're sort of, probably is a little bit, if you're trying to keep it private, maybe not the best, but I'm glad they're sort of like, not taking it too seriously. And I hope they're very happy. He seems like a really nice guy, and she's
Yeah.
one of the most amazing women on the planet. So good for them.
Yeah. I thought it was really cute actually. And I thought what I really loved was she was there with who she was sitting with, like they actually reacted
Yeah,
very well. I think I would have been like, giving
that's
some
so
like
true. Yeah, you guys got to
side
go
eye or
watch
like,
the
oh
clip.
snap. And they didn't. And I was like, so I was almost like, so are they together then? Like, is this confirmed? Because they're still being a little like
I don't think they're ever going, like, I don't think they're gonna take this and be like, "All right, let's just, like, hold hands in
yeah.
public." I
Okay.
think they're probably gonna be, like, pretty
Okay.
private about it, but I'm sure, the WNBA playoffs are coming up. I'm sure we'll see him in the
See,
audience and,
we'll be
not
seeing him.
as just a supportive friend. For our next story on Playing the Field, we have a moment of star-crossed Splash Brothers and one of their new teammates. So, in case you missed it, this summer, Steph Curry's former teammate, longtime teammate, and the second half of the famous Splash Brothers duo, Klay Thompson. Thompson left Golden State for what some might call greener pastures. He signed as a free agent with the Dallas Mavericks. So this past Sunday, there was a super star-studded Liberty game in Brooklyn against the Las Vegas Aces. Both players were at the game courtside. They were sitting on opposite sides of the court across from each other. I went to this game with our producer, and my producer was explaining to me sort of the interesting context there. And then later online, you saw a really funny viral clip where Steph is like, he runs into Klay and his new teammate, Derek Lively, and Curry sort of like, he makes this joke between the pair. He sort of like mimes like, ew, like you two, like they're sort of like commiserating. It really reminded me of in the movie Bridesmaids, like the way that Annie reacts to Helen, where she's just like cannot handle her friendship.
Her friend.
It was very funny to see that like Steph Curry genuinely seemed like a little bit hurt by what had happened and like couldn't help himself in this moment. It was definitely like a lighthearted, fun thing.
Yeah.
But it was very funny. Even Steph Curry has abandonment issues. What did you think of this, Claudia?
I love Steph Curry. And it was like you could feel it. I
Yeah.
get that. It's exactly like so with the Bridesmaids, like, or when you see like you're like, I don't hate this, but I don't love this. And he's just so funny. And I feel like he always wants to have a good time. And that was like the perfect little clip of him in between them. It was like the perfect shot too.
It was so cute.
It's so cute. I love seeing that.
Yeah. And this is just, to sort of expand on this a bit, WNBA games have really become a place to be seen. Obviously, last week in New York City was the US Open. It was also Fashion Week. So I think also a lot of people that were just in town hit up that Liberty Aces game, but it was also during the men's final of the US Open. So I was surprised that so many people were there. Devin Booker was courtside. Klay was spotted sitting next to Paige Beckers, who plays for UConn. Olympic gymnast Jordan Childs and South Carolina basketball coach Dawn Staley were there. Something that I thought was really fun was like, it is obviously incredible when women's sports are, the women's athletic events are the place to be seen. But they really still are like the fans there are fans of women's sports. Obviously, they show like at lots of games of any sport, like who's famous that's there. And they showed Steph Curry, they showed Klay Thompson, they showed Devin Booker, but nobody got more applause than Dawn Staley. When they showed Dawn Staley, that place just completely erupted. Everybody loves Steph Curry, but like the people to see were Jordan Childs and Dawn Staley. So it was nice to see. It's like, the real ones are still here.
Exactly. They know what's up. I love that. I love that.
I know, it was so heartwarming.
And you were there. I'm sure it was like electric and just such a fun time.
I almost sold these tickets because they were like, I did well. I bought a bunch of tickets for the season, like at the beginning of the season before Caitlin Clark even got drafted, and there was so much attention. I mean, tickets for Fever games, are like $1,500. I mean, these are prices you've never seen, and I think a lot about one thing that is very cool about WNBA games is that they can be accessible for a lot of people.
Right.
There are times where you can get seats sort of like up in the rafters for like $35. I don't really know if that's going to be the case moving forward. And it's interesting to kind of like have mixed feelings about that. It's great for the league. But I've heard a lot of interviews of people that are like, whatever, we'll pay whatever to be here. And I'm sure the league, maybe they'll do sort of like sponsored tickets for longtime fans. But yeah, it was an incredible crowd.
That's awesome. It's like a good problem to have.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Sadly, we don't have only good news coming out of the WNBA this weekend. Chicago Sky rookie Angel Reese is out for the season with a wrist injury, ending her record-setting rebounding campaign. And Amanda, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm wondering, is she still in the race for Rookie of the Year?
I would suspect so. I mean, the season is really almost over. I think they tend to announce Rookie of the Year. I think it depends, but it's still about a month away. Chicago they're not in the playoffs yet. They're not out. I think it's between them and the Atlanta Dream. But I am interested to see, there's already been quite a lot of conversation about this Rookie of the Year race. Some people think it's no question that it's Caitlin Clark. Other people think it's no question that it's Angel Reese. Others think it depends how you look at it. If you look purely based on stats, they're pretty close. But Angel has had like a really historic run in terms of stats. I mean, to set that record and not even finish the season is unreal.
The number's kind of wild.
It's absolutely wild. And it was so strange because some people like the sort of rivalry between, I'm doing air quotes, between she and Caitlin Clark has generated a lot of like toxicity, especially towards Angel Reese. And that resulted in over the weekend, I saw some people saying like maybe she's faking it because she just kind of like wants to pull out. It's like, this woman is so motivated.
No.
She has played injured. You can see the play where she clearly hurt her wrist. Such a
Those
bummer.
people know nothing. Those people
They know nothing. They know nothing.
I felt so bad for her, but I did see her statement when she announced it, and it seemed like it sounded like she was in a good place. Like she'll take some time to rest and recover. So I, obviously wishing her the best.
Yeah. I mean, cannot wait to see these players out of their rookie season and next year. And she said that too. She was like, just wait until next year, which she was able to accomplish for her. And I'm sure we will be seeing her if the Sky does make it to the playoffs, we will still get her incredible tunnel outfit. She will be on the sidelines cheering people on. I'm thrilled for her, and congratulations to her for such an incredible season. And we hope she gets well soon. All right, now we're going to move on to football. Big football weekend.
Oh
huge.
my gosh.
I could
So
not
much.
escape football content. I mean, we refer to football as sort of being equal to like bingeable reality TV. And I will tell you, all weekend I was either had football on in the background, or it was also huge. Selling Sunset came out, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives came out. It was a big weekend for
Busy.
non-scripted reality. Big
I
weekend.
love that.
Was football on in your house all weekend?
Oh, girl,
Yeah.
it's all day, every day. I mean, even when it's not on, SportsCenter is on. Like
Right.
just like, did you watch the game? Yes. Am I still gonna watch the highlights? Yes. So it's on all the time.
Totally. All right. So the first weekend of the NFL season, it came and went, and there's plenty to talk about. It's time for a segment we're calling a Tuesday Morning Quarterback. This is our chance to react to some of the biggest stories from college and pro football. So, Claudia, you have some pretty strong thoughts on the slippery field used for the NFL game in Brazil, but we're going to save that for a special segment at the end of the show. For now, we turn our attention to Miami Dolphins star receiver Tyreek Hill.
In case you missed it, Hill was detained about a block away from the Dolphins stadium before Sunday's game. Several teammates actually saw what happened. They stopped to offer support. All of this was caught, not caught on camera, but like bystanders driving by filmed it. It was all over the internet. They ended up going to the game. Everything was fine in terms of safety, but the police department is investigating what happened.
One of the officers involved has been placed on administrative duty. Hill's agent also stated that they may pursue legal action over the incident. Hill did go on to score a game breaking touchdown during the third quarter of Sunday's game, leading to an end zone celebration where his own teammate pretended to handcuff him. The NFL, of course, did cut away from this celebration the moment he put his hands behind his back. So, Claudia, do you follow the Dolphins? How big of a story was this Tyreek Hill situation? What are you thinking about as you take all of this information in and as it develops?
This continues to be a huge story, and I would say now outside the Dolphins because first of all, it's one of the best players in the NFL. He's very well known. He's a very good. And last night, the police department released the body cam footage, which of course is important to incidents like this.
Mhm.
And I have to say that was a very quick release. And at the same time, right after the body camera footage came out, the Dolphins released a statement. Their statement went on to say that they were, quote, saddened by the overly aggressive and violent conduct directed toward their players. Because, like I mentioned earlier, several players kind of stopped to help Tyreek. One of the other players was detained as well for a little bit. They also went on to say, quote, it is both maddening and heartbreaking to watch the very people we trust to protect our community use such unnecessary force and hostility towards these players. Yet it is also a reminder that not every situation like this ends in peace.
Mhm.
As we are grateful this one did. What if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? Is a question that will carry with resounding impact. And they said that because that's what Tyreek Hill said in a post game interview. He was talking about the incident. He said his take was that he did what the officers asked. And he was like, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? Somebody else
Yeah.
wouldn't have been so lucky. So anyway, this has become obviously a broader conversation about what happened. But, the video is out and you can see what happened. He was yanked out of his car. Did it feel like there was some unnecessary hostility when you're watching the video? Yes, but I think that the police department did the right thing to release it, even though this is still under investigation, because not everybody can just go watch the video and kind of decide for themselves what they think.
Like you said, and like Tyreek Hill said himself, I mean, if this had been somebody that this likely happens with unfortunate frequency where people are maybe, will wait for more information, treated with unfair hostility and overly aggressively, especially men of color by law enforcement. And it's a great point to raise that the reason we're all seeing this and talking about this and questioning the way he was treated was because it's newsworthy.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll continue with our segment. The Tuesday morning quarterbacking continues as we turn our attention to one of the biggest lightning rods of all sports, not just football, Aaron Rodgers. He made his 2024 debut with the New York Jets last night on Monday Night Football. Rodgers was out all of last season with an Achilles tear he suffered in week 1 of the 2023 season. Now that he's back, Rodgers isn't lighting up the box score. He had just 167 passing yards and 1 touchdown in a lopsided 33-19 loss to the 49ers. Claudia, tell me, what did you think of Rodgers' performance? What's your assessment? What are people saying? How do they feel about this super highly anticipated return?
Well, I think one thing everyone can agree on was that the 49ers were a much better team, like
Yeah.
much better team. Rodgers, I think people thought that, I mean, of course there's mixed reviews, but people thought he looked himself. He wasn't awful. I think, when you talk about as a team, maybe he would have had more opportunities to throw or have better passes if the team had played better overall. So I don't Like,
Mhm.
I don't think he looked horrible. Like, who is this guy? I did see a ton of memes online, like after the first pass, like him not hurting himself, like of
Yeah.
fans just like celebrating, like, yay, he's okay. Though he was taken out of the game early, but I think it's because, the game was over and I think they're trying to protect him. But I think he looked himself. I think the team has some work to do. So let's see where that goes. I also think it's interesting. I saw this. There's a Netflix docu-series coming
Mhm.
out on him. Did you see that? It's called Enigma, and it's
Wow.
actually looking at his recovery from last year's injury. Hmm, so that's coming out in December, I guess. So I'm curious to see how he continues to play. I mean, I'm rooting for him. So
Yeah, that is so funny. It's like the bar is a little bit a little bit low. It's like, just don't have a catastrophic injury immediately and we're happy.
exactly. Please give us more than 4 snaps, which is like
Right.
the total he had last year.
Totally. And finally, for this segment, we can't call ourselves Tuesday Morning Quarterbacks without some college football talk. Brian
Yeah.
Kelly, head coach for the LSU Tigers, he caught a ton of backlash from fans after he berated his own kicker going into halftime during his team's 44-21 victory over Nicholls State. Apparently, Kelly failed to notice that the kick was blocked, not just kicked wide right. Fans online called Kelly out for yelling at the kicker, even putting his hands on the player at one point to stop him and yell at him. Did you see this video? What was your reaction? Is this just heat of the moment, passionate coach, this is totally acceptable, or did this feel like he's really kind of doing a lot with this kid?
I think it was a lot. I mean, is it
Yeah.
totally acceptable? No, but is it like common? Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I don't know. These coaches sometimes are just like they lose their minds.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary. I know it's like common and it's kind of accepted widely in football, even like in college sports where these kids are like seriously kids. But it's a little much. You hate to see that. I don't know. Like calm down, sir. Like lead by example.
Mhm.
That ain't it.
Yeah, these kids, they're famously they're not getting paid, so give them a break. Give them a break.
That's true. And while we're on the subject of college football, I want to call out just a huge upset of number 5 ranked Notre Dame at the hands of Northern Illinois. You heard that right. Head coach Thomas Hammock had an emotional interview after the game saying, quote, I told them all week, we don't need luck. We just need to be our best. NIU is now ranked in the top 25 for the first time since 2013. And I just love to see this. I watched that interview right after they won. And man, he could not hold back the tears. I mean,
Oh,
I couldn't, my eyes got teary. I mean, how do you
this
watch
is
this
the
and not?
display of soft masculinity we wanna see, not
I,
not
and you,
berating your kicker.
No, it was beautiful, and, like, you just, like, felt it for him, you were so happy for him. He said, I think he said, like, "I feel like a dad, like, I'm so proud of these boys," and I just loved seeing that, it made me emotional. I'm sure everybody who saw that was emotional, maybe not Notre Dame, maybe they're emotional for another reason, but I love to see this kind of upset, especially for a team that's been working so hard. So that was such a fun highlight. Our final news story on Tuesday Morning Quarterback involves an announcement for this year's Super Bowl halftime show. Sorry, Swifties, it's still not Taylor. But the NFL announced that Kendrick Lamar will headline the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show. This is actually his second time performing at the Super Bowl. You might remember in 2022, there was a huge
Mm.
show with rappers and hip hop stars, including Eminem, Dre, Mary J. Blige, and Snoop, which was epic. But this time, it'll be his show.
That's right. He is coming off a stretch where he released what many consider the song of the summer, Not Like Us, a diss track directed at his rival right now, Drake. Claudia, what was your reaction when you saw this? Do you think the Drake fans are going to boycott? I mean, do you think this sort of anoints him as the winner? This final this Super Bowl announcement.
My first reaction was, wow, 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 wow. I don't know if you ever heard the song, but
Yes,
it is so catchy. It has become like the anthem of the summer.
it's also
And yeah,
perfect for. It's very like perfect for sports.
oh, it's like get the people
Such a
hyped.
hype
And
song.
also, I think this cements that he won. I mean, if the song being number one didn't do that, then the Super Bowl halftime show does.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
yeah, are Drake fans everywhere crying? I don't know. I don't care. I'm very excited to see Kendrick Lamar perform.
People love football, so you got to really love Drake to be like, I'm simply not going to watch
Oh,
the
people are gonna
halftime
watch
performance.
because he is an amazing artist, and it's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, I was thrilled to see this. All right, let's move on to some tennis. The US Open came to a close this past weekend with American hopefuls finishing second place in both the women's and men's finals. Number 6 ranked Jessica Pegula fell to champion Arina Sabalenka 7-5, 7-5. And then on Sunday night, number 12 ranked Taylor Fritz lost to the top ranked Jannik Sinner. Sinner is, of course, coming off a somewhat controversial stretch in which he tested positive for banned substances but challenged the ruling. Sinner tested positive twice during an 8-day span for trace amounts of an anabolic steroid. That was back in March, but he was later cleared because it was ruled unintentional. Sinner claimed that the banned substance entered his system during a massage from a member of his team that he later fired. So I haven't really seen too much kind of blowback for this win. Claudia, do you think this championship will be viewed as tainted long term? Do you think this is a legitimate win? Do you think people accept it? Or do you think, people might continue to have some feelings about it?
I think people have moved on. I mean,
Yeah.
did we wish to see an American win? Yes, it's been
Yes.
a long time, but I don't think you can blame this for the loss, so I think people have moved on. I think this was a legitimate win. I don't think it's tainted. Yeah, maybe some people still have questions, but I think it's kind of like, okay, guys,
Yeah.
we're moving on.
And the assessments I saw were that Taylor Fritz didn't have the best match ever.
No.
And maybe if it had been closer, people would maybe raise
Yeah,
that. Well, it's
exactly. It
the
wasn't
massage oil with the
exactly
steroids.
like, oh, well, remember that time he tested positive. So exactly, there wasn't even enough to be like, oh, we were so close. Maybe there
Mhm.
he had a slight advantage. It was like,
Right.
I think even in an interview, he was like, he was better. Like he's clearly
Yeah.
the number one.
Right.
So it's like, even if he's like bound, like saying like, okay, you got this, good, sir, then I think we can all
Right.
accept it too.
Like I said, I did see some harsh feedback of Taylor Fritz's performance. But you know what? The losing players at the US Open weren't the ones receiving the harshest feedback after the US Open final. That honor goes to Brady Mahomes and Taylor Swift. So over the weekend, this has sort of there's been a lot of anticipation about when is Taylor Swift going to be seen with Brittany Mahomes again. We
So
know they're friends because their husbands work together, or excuse me, I accelerated things for Taylor. Travis is not her husband yet. Their spouses, their partners work together. And recently, Brittany Mahomes came under fire. She liked a post from Donald Trump explaining his platform. People were not happy with that. The way the platform was, it's Trump's platform, and it was laid out in quite a bit of detail. And her like on that post seemed to suggest that she condoned those specific policy proposals that many people disagree with. And she didn't sit quietly with that. I would assume her comms director was like, just don't say anything. That's not how she responded. She shared a lot more content saying, don't criticize people for this, rise above, this is fine. And, famously, Taylor Swift's publicist, Tree Payne, I thought Tree Payne was probably not going to let Taylor be seen with Brady Mahomes. They were pretty chummy at the US Open. They went to dinner after. And I actually saw quite a lot of criticism from Taylor's fans towards her and just people that observe her. Taylor Swift, there's been a lot of talk. She tends to endorse presidential candidates like a day before the election. So I did see quite a lot of criticism. And I think it's an interesting conversation about how, Taylor Swift and her association with football has been great with the league. And I think this moment sort of reminds us that not everybody can just sort of pretend that politics doesn't exist. And I'm sure the NFL would prefer this is not a conversation that happens to their, Swiftie Nation takeover of the NFL. But it's here. Again, Taylor Swift's not gonna respond to this, but it was a really one of the bigger stories I've seen in the sort of sports pop culture intersection that I know a lot of our listeners pay attention to.
I saw a lot of this too. So much during the Chiefs game was like, oh, Brittany's not there.
Yeah.
They hate each other.
Right.
And then you see them hugging at the US Open, and it's like, just kidding. And how dare you? Also, you mentioned the NFL probably doesn't want to, be involved. I think they don't mind if it's during their games because it means more people
True.
are watching.
That's so true. If they're tuning in just to see if those two are
Oh, yeah.
together. Yeah.
Do they hate each other? Stay tuned. It is an interesting conversation. At the end of the day, like, I think it's so interesting how much power Taylor Swift has in like
Yeah.
everything she does. Who are her friends? How does she treat them? So I'm curious to see. Like you said, she's not going to say anything. I do wonder if she's going to come out and endorse officially.
Right. Or maybe this would like expedite that process for whatever reason. Maybe she's not sweating going to
think
dinner
so.
with Brittany Mahomes. No. Yeah.
I don't think she's going to say anything. I think she's going to move on and keep doing her thing and let people talk because that's
It
what she's
doesn't
been
really
doing.
ultimately, she's Taylor Swift. It's not ultimately going to cost her anything. Another person, I don't know if you saw this, who was watching Taylor Swift very closely at the US Open, Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart has become her new iteration as a paparazzi. She
Oh
posts these
my gosh.
Instagram carousels of all the pictures she takes of famous people that like they're basically like your mom sending you pretty
I
pretty poorly staged pictures of
yes.
people. Like I saw your high school
Look.
boyfriend Frankie. She just posts these carousels of all of her celeb sightings.
Except it's like top tier celebrities that everyone
Right,
would freak out over if they saw them.
right.
But it's hilarious because it's like a close up of like Taylor Swift. It's like a legit paparazzi. It's like blurry, and you can. It's like obviously Taylor Swift, but she was like with her cell phone, like zooming in, like, oh, we're gonna get this picture,
It's
and then
so
she posts it
funny.
on
She
her
is
Instagram.
absolutely living the dream. I mean, Taylor Swift, like for better and for worse, I think the critique when you're that famous is welcome, but she also got a lot of, I think, unnecessary criticism just for like she seemed to really be enjoying herself at the US Open. It
Yeah,
seemed like she had a couple honeydeuces. She and Travis
yeah.
were
She always.
dancing. And my take on this is that I don't mind Taylor Swift being openly like silly and
Mhm.
maybe a little cringy and how much fun she's having. I would just love for her to do that at a women's sports event for once. I don't think we've seen her do this. I mean, she definitely supports female athletes. I think we've seen her like she brought up the U.S. women's national team at a concert a couple years ago. I think she invited one of the women's Olympics team. But like, why'd you go to the U.S. men's like go to that Liberty game, girl? I want to see her at a WNBA game. I want to see her. The NWSL finals are coming up. The women's hockey league is
I'm with
coming
you.
back. I would love to see her there.
I'm with you. They sell drinks at those places too. You can have a great time. You can bring your boo if you want or not. But you're
Exactly.
right. I think that would carry so much weight.
It would be huge.
Especially if Taylor Swift went. So
It would be
come
huge.
on, maybe send her an invite and come hang. Be like, all the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Liberty front office has been making tons of offers, and I really hope that they finally get a yes. So we are on to our final segment where we always try to do something a little bit different, whether it's a game or just a unique closing segment. And today, I'm sure you all are aware there's a presidential debate tonight that some people might be paying
Oh,
attention to,
really?
and we are theSkimm. We famously are always going to cover news and politics. It is an election year; we're all over it. And in honor of this historic event, which I'm sure we'll have people talking all week, we decided to come up with some closing statements of our own. I suspect Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, they will be asked to share some closing statements where they share their platform, they share something they feel very, very strongly about. And we have those to share too. We've come up with some of our own. Think of these as our final thoughts in a debate we're having with nobody but ourselves. Claudia, how about you go first?
So for my closing statement, I want to turn our attention to the field in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where the Eagles took on the Packers this past Friday night. This was a huge game. This was the first ever NFL regular season game in South America. There was so much promotion for this. I mean, it's an awesome initiative. Spread the game, take it international. But my takeaway is the NFL needs to get its ish together because if you watch that game, the players on both sides were slipping all over the place.
Oh
It seemed like
no.
every play someone was slipping. It's like what's happening? And what was happening is that the field is slick. It's usually a soccer stadium, and soccer pitches tend to be different. They want the ball to roll. They're not made for cutting and the play that NFL games usually have. So it was like very evident. Players had to come out and change their cleats several times. And like I felt bad. It was frustrating, but at the end of the day, I'm like, whose job is it to do your research and like fine, if you can't fix the field, then like let your players know. Did they practice? Like, did anyone run some sprints before? I have so many questions, and I feel like it just looked really bad. And I'm sure it was still it was still a great effort, and like everyone had a great time. Okay, I'll take all that. I still want to keep this going,
Mhm.
but someone needs to do a better job of preparing the fields. And the reason I'm like highly concerned about this is obviously the safety of the players, but also the US is hosting, the World Cup, and they're going to be playing a lot of these matches in football fields. Again, different types of fields, pitches, all that. So I just want to make sure that for that giant, World Cup, all of the matches that we're going to have here, that we're prepared for those. Otherwise, it's going to be really disappointing. So I don't know. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know how you
Mhm.
feel. Maybe I'm just getting a little too
It was
rambling.
it was hard to watch. I mean, like you said, people were having fun, but to me, I mean, it feels like such a sort of meta representation of American football never yielding or recognizing the like the global supremacy of I don't want to say real football. I'm
Oh,
in these United States, but
yeah.
it just feels very meta that they'd be like, of course, the field we're going to is going to be perfectly fit for American football. It's like in most of the world, football means soccer. Most of the fields across the world are not equipped for
Yeah.
American football. And you're so right. It just is a huge oversight to not have clocked that before. And think like maybe let's actually make sure this is going to be amenable to the game that we're playing. And I'm sure they learned their lesson, but it is sort of classically American. Like, of course the field will be made for us and our specific
That's
needs
so
of this
funny. It's
sport
like,
that only
it'll be
we
fun.
play.
Yeah, of course. It's like you put this multi-billion-dollar league, put so much money into hyping it up, the production, getting you there, all of the stuff, and then like they fail to kind of
And
like
then it's just a slip and
nail
slide.
one of the most basic parts of the game, which is like, oh, what are they playing on? Is it going to be safe for them? Is it going to work? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Right.
It's like, okay,
Right,
do
and you would
better.
think
That's
like
all.
I know they're doing pretty well, but I mean there are efforts to kind of expand football more internationally that can
Oh
only
yeah,
help the stakeholders. And this was perhaps not necessarily a smooth step in that direction, a bit of a a bit of a stumble.
100%. And I'm all for that. There are football players,
Mhm.
football fans all over the world. And I really do love this initiative. They've been to England before, Germany. So, I mean, Brazil, obviously known for its soccer, but there are apparently so many football fans there too. So it's a great initiative, but like you need to do a little better to really nail this down.
Your time is up on your closing statement. And I unlike the presidential debate, our mics are not muted, so you might have heard me speaking in
No,
agreement
I
there.
appreciate
Forgive
it.
me. Yeah. All right, it is my turn to put a bow on things. And for my closing statement, I ask you, the American people, to turn your attention to the end of an all time great soccer career, Alex Morgan. My closing statement is that Alex Morgan should never have to work again. And I do think that if she were a male athlete of the same caliber, she would not have to. So, background here is that 35-year-old Alex Morgan, she announced last week that she is retiring. This is the end of her professional soccer career. She has been playing for the San Diego Wave. It was a pretty imminent retirement within days of her announcement. She also announced that she was pregnant. She played her final game on Sunday. And listen, if she were a male player of any sport, with her accomplishments, with her star power, with her value to the league, she would probably have tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to retire with. And listen, maybe Alex Morgan does. I
I
don't
hope
I
she
don't
does.
know. I hope she does.
Yeah, we
Maybe
really
she
don't know.
does.
But
I don't want to speculate about her bank account. I also do think it's a little bit of a misconception that women athletes can't get rich. I think it's important to talk about the salary caps, and they're not making that from salaries, but increasingly these athletes are commanding so much money. They're so valuable for endorsements. But let's be real, their salaries do not match their contributions. And when you compare salaries for even American soccer players, the men and the women, it's not even close. My point is that Alex Morgan, whether she wants to keep working or not, should have, with what she has accomplished, she should have amassed enough wealth from her decades long elite career to not lift a finger for many, many years, because there are absolutely less accomplished and impressive male athletes across sports leagues who, without question, can. And we don't know their names. They're just like probably sitting pretty in their mansions with tens and
oh
hundreds
yeah,
of
for
millions of dollars.
probably playing half the time that she did with maybe not even as successful as Alex Morgan was.
Exactly, exactly. And listen, I'm also not saying that male athletes who retire with net worth of hundreds of millions
Yeah,
of
don't
dollars just
deserve it.
stop
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
Like we said, Tom Brady is out there. Most of the time they've created like such expensive lifestyles that they have to keep it up. But in recent years, we have heard from several female athletes about how income is a serious calculation in their retirement plans. I
Mhm.
think Ali Krieger has spoken about this in a way I just don't think it is to the same degree as their male peers. Like we said, like there are definitely some male athletes who have retired and do nothing. And you know what? I am looking forward to seeing what Alex Morgan does next. But to me, in a perfect world, one of the planet's best female athletes would be able to retire, having amassed enough wealth to do absolutely nothing and not lift a finger
She
for the rest of their
absolutely should.
life.
But you know what, Amanda? Maybe she can't. I mean, not like I don't think she would, honestly, because she is kind of like, I think after so many years doing what you love, I think she might, for example, come back and do some commentating or,
Totally.
and she might still have some endorsements. She should because she's a baller. But I hope that she does have that option because she really has been around and successful for so long that it would be like I mean, I would love to know and ask her
If
like, hey, so
anyone
like how
can, it's
much.
probably her.
Exactly. So like if it isn't, I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna be sad for like the state of things. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but she's so great, and she's been so successful. She's had so many endorsements. Like, if she can't do it, then like, oof, things
Totally.
are not
And I
looking
think
good.
about this like with Marta, when Marta retires, like that woman should never have to lift a finger again. And again, these women are internally motivated. They're going to keep doing
Right.
incredible things. We're going
They
to see them
probably are.
out there. But if it were up to me, my closing statement is that Alex Morgan, if she doesn't want to ever work again, she should not have to. She should be done. And she should have been valued enough throughout her career to never have to lift a finger again. I doubt that's the case. I want to see her more. But yes, that is my closing statement. I think that professional female athletes to that caliber have reserved the right to do absolutely nothing in retirement.
Amanda for president. I agree. And that's your time for this closing statement. Thank you. And guess what? That's it for this episode of Well Played. Amanda, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. And I'm just really appreciative for letting me come and join you.
Of course, we're so happy you're here. I mean, we've got a very healthy bench here at the Skim, and we will definitely be having you back. We look forward to Blake being back next week. Like we said, she is in France. She is going to do some dispatches for us specifically to see if those Olympic rings are still on the Eiffel Tower and how people feel about
and
it.
how people feel about it.
Yes.
I'm excited for that report when she comes back.
Absolutely. And until then, please be sure to rate, review, and follow the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening now. Follow us on Instagram at theSkimm, and please be sure to check out our new Well Played YouTube channel. You can watch this full episode as a video, and as well as some fun clips that we'll put together with some cool graphics. We are looking forward to being back next week. This was so much fun, Claudia. Thank you again. And thanks to everyone for listening to Well Played, the only podcast in a league of its own.